Hey everyone, Rachel here with a quick note about this episode. I had the pleasure of having a guest host this time, my good friend Justin, who is reading the books for the first time ever and is a super fan too now. And like us, reading these for the first time, he has a lot of theories. They aren't technically spoilers because he hasn't read beyond what we've actually covered here on the podcast. However, there is a chance that some of his thoughts might lead to potential spoilers. So if this is your first time with the books and you are super spoiler averse, which is understandable, no one wants to ruin this great reading experience for anybody, I wanted to offer you this caution so you know how to best proceed. Anyway, we hope you enjoy the show just as much as we enjoyed making it. Thank you again to Justin for stepping in and filling in. It meant the world to me. I had a blast. On that note, let's get into the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cast of Calla, where we talk about all things related to the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I'm your host, Rachel, and normally this is the part where I would introduce the other half of my quartet, DJ, but he's actually out this episode. But don't worry, because I get the pleasure of introducing a new member of the quartet, my very good friend and fam of the pod, Justin.
Long days and pleasant nights.
Oh, look at you! Someone has not forgotten the face of their father.
I'm just waiting for that response, but it's not going to happen, huh?
Which one's that? Did I fuck it up?
And may you have twice the number.
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Called out on my own podcast. And may you have half the number for that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to pick a quote. She'll know it easy. I don't even have to tell her about it. Okay. I'm sorry.
I blew it. No.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. Great start. No, I'm just kidding. No, okay, so obviously Justin is my very, very good friend and a new initiate into the world of the Dark Tower, I think you could say.
Yes, very, very, very much so.
Okay, cool. So, all right, real quick, plan for this episode. We're going to kick off the show with an in-depth conversations of Wolves of the Calla, Part 2, Telling Lies, Chapter 1, Sections 1 through 7. And then I don't have a listener question because I blew it this time. So we will be skipping that this time, but we'll have one for the next episode. But before we get into any of that, I want to take a minute to get to know you a little bit better, or let the listeners get to know you a little better, because I know you very well.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't. Yeah.
We just did a tight 10 on pooping. So
10?
Okay.
Very
tight. 3 times 10, 4 times 10. So we're already pretty tight, is what I'm saying. But I want them to get to know you because you're amazing. First of all, let's tell them about what your gig is. Tell us about Here's Johnny.
Okay, so Here's Johnny is a podcast that I co-host with my good friend who I've never met in real life, Larry, who is on the Untitled Nick Cage show with Rachel. We basically just go through what we've kind of broken down into subgenres of horror, and we just go through seasons of that, reviewing games and movies. And Rachel's been on there a bunch. We did our Saw. I dragged you through Saw, and Larry dragged us through Scream. And it's okay. We're getting our comeuppance with Hellraiser. So
we are. Yeah, listeners of the show have heard of your podcast because I plug it whenever I'm on the show. I always plug it at the end of this. But now you're getting to experience Justin.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Also, I was recently on a patron special.
On a patron special, or were the patron special? Because I feel like it could be argued that you stole that whole show, and I was glad for it.
There is a GIF going around of me right now, and it is. I feel like I'm just gonna have to live with it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I made it in GIF Maker, and then I went back to get it, and it was 404ing me. I'm like, what? But don't worry, I have remade it, and it will be saved forever on Giphy.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I love it.
It's amazing. Making it was one of the greatest moments of my life. And then I was like, please let me use this. And you are such a good sport.
If I bring anything to the table, it is commitment to the bit.
Yes.
That is like my specialty is if I do something, I don't care. Go tell whatever. Like
I remember pre-show you were like, I think I might wear a suit. I thought you meant like a suit and tie, not a full morph suit.
Listen, you said go for it, so I was like, well, all right, I got like a blank check here, so what am I gonna do? I will tell you, do you know how hard it is to find a store that has a Halloween costume in March?
I was going to say, how did you get this thing in time? Because we were like talking about it the day before the show.
So surprisingly enough, so the next morning I went to work, worked for like 5 hours, came home, grabbed Michelle and the kids, and we went to, there's like a party store, and they keep their unsold Halloween costumes all year round. And I just went and I was like, hey, do you have like this costume? Blah, 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 blah. And they had one left and it was my size. So I was like, okay.
It was meant to be, dude.
And then, of course, I bought like green face paint.
It was amazing. See, the best thing was, even though the morph suit only stayed on for portions of the show because it was so hot.
Oh, it is like
the makeup was present the whole time.
Yeah, and I just looked like a green Robert Pattinson.
It was amazing. Oh. It was so great.
It was a journey we went through. It was great.
It was
I loved
amazing. You made the show. Like
thank you.
And after all of your fear of how you were going to perform, you absolutely crushed. So now I just know you're Canadianing it. Like,
well, I figured that's why DJ isn't here today, right? He couldn't.
The shame.
Yeah, the shame. He couldn't.
Oh my god. Yeah, for those of you in the audience who have not seen it or signed up for the Patreon, you are missing out.
Yeah,
I said it beforehand, but I really didn't know what I had them.
Yeah, and hopefully I get invited back. I'm
Oh, dude, absolutely.
I know I will. Obviously.
I mean, you're already back on this show.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
I was like worried. I was like, you're gonna be so sick of me. I keep making you do all these podcasts with me.
So it's funny. I was talking to Larry about this. I was like, I don't have to edit, whatever. It's literally sitting down and talking to you. So,
isn't it nice?
Right?
Being the guest is the best.
Oh man,
it's like the minute you stop recording, you're like, and I'm done. I need to send out a tweet.
Oh yeah, I gotta go to bed. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it doesn't like that. That's why I'm like, whatever, sure. Just tell me when, and I'll be there.
You're such a good sport, and it also helps. Like ever since you started reading The Dark Tower, this is a moment that I've been waiting for. I told you before that I'm like, we've been building to this, and I keep like going like, don't forget, we're gonna have.
I don't. I feel bad because I we'll probably get into this, but I stopped for a bit.
That was a hard time for me. I don't like to talk about the dark times.
Oh, the dark times of The Dark Tower. I get it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll just kind of get into this now. Like, I binged the first 3 / the. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. The Sisters of.
I think you binged the 4 because I think you made it through Wizard and Glass, right?
Oh, I did, yeah. So I binged 4 books in like a month and a half, and the side story. I'm sorry, I can't. I am completely
Little Sisters of Eluria.
Yes,
you were close.
Yeah. I knew there were sisters in there somewhere. I binged all that in about a month and a half, and then as per usual, I got like really burnt out. Obviously, because I'm like listen to it. Day in, day out at work for hours at a time. And then I took a little bit of a break, and then now I'm back though. And I was like maybe like 2 hours in, and then you obviously had asked me to join here, and I was like, okay, gives me a reason. Yeah. So I got caught up in like a day.
Yeah, it helps that we're slow as hell. So you're like, I don't know, I'm kind of behind. I was like, you got time.
Well, and it's funny. So I was like, okay, if I have a day, that's enough. Right?
Yeah.
Because I can generally listen to about like 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah. And I could see how there's like kind of a little bit of a momentum dip that happens at the front of this book with the prologue and then them sort of walking. And I think thematically all that stuff is important, but like coming off of the craziness of Wizard and Glass, like it does feel like a little like
yeah. Well, see, but the other problem was with me is that they started to, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they started to blend together. I was having a hard time telling where one book started and the other ended. I mean, obviously, like there's like Blaine, and the OG Jake.
Yeah,
you don't never forget your first, but but I feel like the for me anyways, kind of the later half of 2 and all the way up to the end of 4 kind of started to blend together with me, and that's kind of when I know, like, okay, I'm still taking it, I'm still really enjoying it, but I'm starting to have a problem separating what happens and when. So that's how I know when I'm like, okay, I have to take a step back. Yes, I need this kind of, and then it's always hard because then when I come back into it, I'm like, okay, I have to kind of remember where I was, and that's why I just restarted.
Weirdly, this is kind of the perfect place to do it too, because it's like the book he started after a huge like time gap. So he did a reset. Yeah. So he did the first 3, and it's like this cliffhanger with Blaine.
Yes.
And then it's Wizard and Glass, and like it came out, I don't know, 10 years later. And then there was another huge gap between here and this, and like he had this huge life altering experience that happened where he almost died, and then he came back and wrote the last 3. So there's some resetting that happens at the front of this book that I think was intentional because he knew people hadn't read the books for 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good place to pick back up.
And I think you had actually told me that there is another short story or something that takes place between Wizard and Glass.
There's another book, yeah.
I don't remember what it's called. Sorry.
It's called Wind Through the Keyhole, and it takes place. They call it book 4.5, even though he wrote it like several years after The Dark Tower, where it takes place in the time between them leaving. I can't remember where it is, but they basically there's a huge
the Emerald
storm.
City.
Yeah, there's like. Okay. Is that true? Or is it even before that? It might even be before. I can't remember. But there's this huge storm, and they have to take shelter. And over the course of the night, he tells them 2 fables. And so it's like kind of like Wizard and Glass, where it's like a story within a story.
Okay.
But it doesn't like advance the story. But it's kind of perfect at the end. You know, we're going to read it at the very end, even though chronologically it happens at a different point.
So is that where you suggest I should read it as well?
Yeah, I think because I think after it's over, you're going to be like, maybe not right away, because you'll just be like, I need a break. But at some point, you're going to be like, I miss Roland and Eddie and Susanna and Jake and Oi. And then at that point, you can kind of go back and revisit it. Although a lot of people read the books and then turn around and read the books again because they want to like pick up on all the stuff that is like seeded throughout the books. But
so you have also told me that there is a point in time where you are given 2 options.
Yes.
Either to keep going or to stop.
Yeah.
This could potentially be spoilerish.
Yeah, I can't tell you why.
No, I'm not going to ask why. But is it in this book?
No,
because
there's 2 books after this.
Books. Okay,
it's in the last. It's at the end of the last book.
So wait. Keep go. Oh, is it like partway through the last book? Oh, okay. Okay.
And like, I don't know anyone who actually stops. I don't think you'll be able to stop at that point. It's like totally the Vinegar Strokes of the books.
All right.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah,
our listeners can handle it.
I mean, some of the stuff that Stephen King gets into, yes, they can actually they can absolutely
not quite. It's not literally the Vinegar Strokes of the book, but I mean, in terms of like your need to continue, you're edging a little bit. So, am I gonna have to cut all of that?
No, just leave it in.
You're a bad influence.
Thank you.
And in that you make me be my true self, which is terrible. Okay, all right. So what is it about the books that you really connect with?
So mainly, there's this fantastic person I know who told me I should read the series.
Larry?
You.
I know. I just wanted you to say it.
Oh, okay. So I had actually tried to read the first book a couple of years ago, and I just wasn't really. I mean, so I should say I am listening to the audiobooks. I'm not reading the actual books. That's how I do my reading.
Yeah.
I have
You will
this,
not
like,
be shamed for audiobooks on this podcast.
No, and I have like a weird thing. If I like try to read a book, I just get tired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's totally
Same
normal.
thing.
Like,
same thing happens to my dad too. He like can't. I mean, he can read obviously, but like if he tries to read a book, it just like he just falls asleep.
yeah, that's how I used to fall asleep when I was a kid. Was I would read a book.
I don't get it. Yeah, but yeah. So I'm listening to the audiobooks, and I listened to the first chapter of the first book, and was like, I'm not really feeling the narrator. So I bounced off, and then you had told me, oh, you should read it. You know, well, we got into it already, but basically, you told me I should read these books. So I did, and I like kind of pushed through a little bit, and now I really like the narrator. I can't. I'm blanking on who narrates it.
Well, Frank Mueller did the first 4 books, I think. Then, unfortunately, he was in a really, really bad motorcycle accident.
Oh,
yeah, and so then George Goodall took over.
I knew.
Felt a little different.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't tell what it is.
Yeah, no, it's a different narrator because.
So does he do the rest of them then?
He does. Although I think originally it was Stephen King himself who read the last one, but they've redone it with George Goodall. Thank God. I love Stephen King, but like he's a great writer. Narrating is not for everyone.
Yes,
I'm not a good narrator.
No, I couldn't narrate anything if life depended on it. So
yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. I like fantasy setting in a book, and obviously this is a very high fantasy, mixed with like old westerns, and I'm just really connecting with the vibe, I guess, of like this old crusted gunslinger who's like trying to bring up like basically the next generation. I don't know. I something about it just like clicks with me. Maybe because I'm dad. I don't know.
Do you have a favorite like scene in the books? Like a moment where you're like, when you look back at it, you're like, that's my favorite part so far.
Weird. So I don't know if it's like a weird choice. But it's basically when Roland is on the beach with like the lobstrosities. And he's like kind of like trying to get Eddie to come back, and then Eddie comes back and he's like sees that Roland is like dying. And I don't know, just the lobstrosities really creep me out.
Oh yeah.
So and I think it's just kind of always stuck with me, and and like the whole like did a chum or whatever. That really weirds me out. Yeah. But I don't know, it's just I think it's because it's the first time we're like seeing Roland truly vulnerable, like he is at death's door, and he has to kind of rely on this at the time drug addict to like save him. It was wild. And then there's a whole like naked gunfight thing, which is wild.
It's so good. That's a great, that whole scene in Balzar's place is
that's like well, see, that's the thing is like, so I Balzar's place was amazing, and I love like the midworld section of that too, which is the Roland basically dying on a beach for an entire book.
Right.
That's got to be my favorite.
All right. Do you have a favorite character?
I kind of like Oi.
That's a totally acceptable answer. Oi is amazing,
and like I really like Jake, but I have theories that I don't know if I should get into now.
Save it for, hold on, I'm going to write a note because I want to know what it is, but we're going to do in the extended episode. I want to hear all of your like, I am a crackpot. Everybody that listens to the show knows that like nothing can happen in these books without me reading conspiracies into them. Okay. So based on what you're saying, I can smell the crackpottery.
I have a reason. So I like Jake a lot, actually, but there is a reason why he is not my favorite character, because maybe putting too much information out there, but I'm trying not to get attached to him.
Interesting. That's interesting. Okay. I thought maybe it would be Eddie, because you have a good sense of humor, and like he's kind of like the
Eddie. I love Eddie. Eddie's amazing. But
isn't Eddie great? That's the problem, is they're all so great. It's hard to pick a favorite.
I'm trying to think like
from scene to scene, my opinion changes. But I think steadily Oi is like
Well, he's just like, he's
amazing.
kind of always like there.
Yeah.
And like always just like
Were
either
you
like
so
drops the
worried?
ball or like, I don't know, does something like funny. Like he's almost like a humor. Well,
Yeah.
not even like humor, but he's just kind of like a relief character. I'm sure that
Yes.
probably changes, but
No, I mean,
he gives
Oi
like,
is Oi.
yeah, that's fair.
When he was like in the tube in Under Lud, were you like,
Oh.
I'm not ready for this?
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, he is
When he
going,
gets stabbed, I was like, no.
I wasn't ready for it. Although, I will say, hey Rachel, just so you know, I don't like kids dying. Hey, what's this book about? Kids dying. You know,
I'm not saying Jake dies.
I meant more of like what is going on in Calla
Okay. Yeah.
right now. Is it Calla or Calla?
I always say Calla, but
Calla?
it could be
Okay.
Calla. I
Okay.
don't know.
Oh, I was saying Calla too. Calla?
I guess
Calla?
you're right.
Oh my God.
I didn't even think
Oh,
about
I
it.
mean, I don't actually care. I just thought it was like funny.
And I don't remember well enough to know if any of the like named characters die.
Hey, we're gonna find it
I mean,
together.
the wolves are coming, so it's not, there's gonna be casualties, but I don't know if it's like adults or
Oh, I figured.
kids.
I just thought it was funny. It's like, hey,
I'm sorry.
the wolves come and take these kids and torture them.
I totally wasn't thinking. I feel
No,
now I feel
it's-
like shit. I'm
Oh no,
so
it's okay.
sorry.
It's okay. I just thought it was funny because
I don't think there's any graphic kid death in this.
Oh,
but
I mean, what
I could also. I'll be.
There's also
reading
like bad stuff happens in it to kids, and I've read it. Right, like if whatever, it's a book, it's fine.
I know. I just feel bad, and I definitely am someone who like flips past the animal violence stuff, and so I feel bad that I gave you a whole book about kid violence.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotta break through that wall somehow, right?
Yeah.
Dive head on
Yeah.
in. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Like I want to in the Wizard and Glass. I just like skipped right past the firecracker scene. I was like, nope, Nope.
Good call. Good
Nope.
call. Yeah.
not doing it. I knew it was going to be
Interesting.
bad, and I was like, mm-mm. So I found out what happened when DJ did the recap, and I was like, yep, made a right call on that one.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't. Nope. So I apologize. If you want, I can just tell you what happens in the book, and you can go to the next one. Ooh,
No.
okay.
I won't do that.
Okay,
Yeah, I won't do
okay.
that. Yeah.
All right. So I'm assuming this is not your favorite book so far. So do you have a favorite?
Yeah. So this is kind of tough for me.
Yeah.
Because I actually really, really liked Wizard and Glass.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the very Western aspect of it.
Yeah.
Again, Stephen King gets into this like horny teenager describing sex like 1,000 times in that book.
Yeah.
Like,
lots
I swear to
and
God,
lots of boners.
as if I have to hear about boners or soft, supple nipples again, I
No,
swear.
I know. The nipples. No, it's so.
Okay, so it's like something with him and George R.R. Martin. They are obsessed with the nipple.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't.
I don't know.
Like I do, but I don't. Like
Like enough already with the
yes. Like okay, it's a nipple. We get it. You
Yeah.
don't have to tell me about like the creases and like
Ooh.
the like temperature of each. Like I get it. Okay, I get it. It's a nipple.
Yeah. Well, DJ always says that Stephen King writes sex scenes like your dad's telling you about sex.
Yeah.
It just makes you super
Well,
like.
and it's weird because it's like he wants to write an erotic novel,
Yeah.
but he wants to give you bite-sized pieces of it, like well, not only this book, obviously, like
Bite-sized pieces.
yeah, bite-sized that last entire chapters,
Yeah, there's a point where he's just like, and I'm done talking about this, and everyone like collectively like sigh of relief.
Well, and sorry to bring this up as kind of a side note, but like the whole like I think the idea of the sex demon was cool,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's like, I mean, in the audiobook it's like 20-25 minutes long
yeah.
of just
Yeah.
like,
And sadly, I'm not sure which
counter-thrustings.
one you're talking about because there's two. Because
um
there's the one in the gunslinger,
not that one, the one
the
with
one in the
Susanna.
speaking ring. Yeah,
Yes.
Mhm. That one's rough. That
Yeah.
one, if you go back and listen to the episode where we covered that, I was pretty spicy about that.
Yeah,
I had
it's-
strong feelings about that scene.
It's so weird. But other than Wizard and Glass, I
I mean, think Wizard and Glass is a perfectly acceptable one to have your favorite. It's a great book. See,
but I really like the Drawing of the Three.
It's a great book too.
Yeah.
There's really no wrong answers here.
I mean, I will say, you kind of nailed it on the head that so far, this is my least favorite book. Not for the like subject matter, just it's very almost like it's almost pumped the brakes. Yeah.
All right. Final question before we get into the chapter: who should play Roland in our fantasy film of the Dark Tower?
Oh, okay.
Like not the bad shitty one that we got, but like the perfect one. Like HBO decides they're going to make a 10-season version of these books. Who's Roland?
Now, have either of you answered this question? Because I want to know. Okay, so who? Because I
honestly don't remember who we picked.
Oh no,
but we did do a dream casting on it once, and like we had a handful of different people we picked. See, I picked a weird one.
I
always
think of,
go
like,
outside
people
the box.
Who look like he is described. But
here's the thing: you can do it however you want. You can cast him exactly how he looks. You can cast him exactly who you think could pull off the vibe.
Weirdly enough, somebody who I think at this stage in their life could pull off the vibe is like Tom Jane.
That's an interesting choice.
Only because I like the Punisher movie.
Okay.
But I'm also like goofy. I was thinking like maybe Tom Hardy, but a little too goofy, I think. And like everything he does.
So funny that everybody's opinion of him has changed since Venom.
But see, I am a fan of. I
am too.
Like Tom Hardy. There's also I feel bad for saying this. I think I've told you about this before. Tom Blarty, as we call him.
Tom Blarty? Who's Tom Blarty?
It's somebody who looks exactly like Tom Hardy. I'm a fan of that guy. Sorry, I'm gonna Logan Marshall Green.
Yes, he's really good too. He was great in that, and he was great in The Invitation.
I forgot about The Invitation.
I love that movie.
I am going to, man. See, because I think of like a bunch of like people I would just like to see like Javier Bardem, or
he was at one point was attached to play Roland.
I could see it. But I'm trying to think of like, because he's got to kind of be like an older Hugh Jackman, maybe.
Hugh Jackman, that's interesting.
Well, because he's like older now, right? So he's kind of got that like little grizzled look to him, and he's physically big. Who do you think? Who are you surprised I haven't said?
I thought for sure you go Tobin Bell. Tobin Bell would be a kind of a rad Roland.
You know what though? Tobin Bell is like the Man in Black.
Oh, interesting.
Just like, I mean, obviously, like, well, I haven't seen Tobin Bell in anything recently, so I'm not sure like how he's doing, but you know,
we'll find out in the next Saw movie, I guess. So my Man in Black is David Tennant.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at him now. Oh, you know what? I wonder how I'd feel about like Bruce Campbell being
Bruce Campbell. Interesting.
Because he's obviously getting up there.
As like Roland?
Yeah. I know obviously Roland's not like.
What about Man in Black?
Oh, Man in Black would be good.
All right. Okay. So I think do you have a top pick out of the picks for Roland?
Yeah, Nick Cage. No, I'm joking.
I mean, I've seen Pig, so that doesn't sound as crazy after all. Like, if he can just like do a quiet performance, it could be interesting.
I'm gonna go. Shit. Okay, you're making me choose. You're making me choose.
I am making you choose.
Okay. I will say Tom Jane because I haven't seen him in anything lately, and I like him whenever he shows up.
Okay. Physically, he's kind of perfect for it. So
yes, and again, a lot of people don't like it, but I actually love the Punisher movie. And he's great as a vegan police officer in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So
he's also in The Mist.
Oh, and how did I forget about that?
And if you go back and watch The Mist, he's painting a painting. Do you remember this?
No, is he? Okay. Is it the tower?
Let me show you this. I'm going to send you a picture.
Oh my God, he's painting the tower, isn't he?
I'm going to show you what he's painting because I have a screen grab right here.
Well, that was very quick.
Well, I'm a professional.
What about like Gary Oldman?
Gary Oldman would be great, Roland.
Right? And so he's like so transformative.
Mm-hmm. All right, I put it in our Discord.
But also like Cillian Murphy. Like
Ooh,
a lot. Like
the blue eyes.
That's exactly like I don't have a lot of actors or actresses that I will go out of my way to watch them in certain things. Cillian Murphy is like the top of that list for me.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, especially, I'm just thinking about like we talked about this last week, but like 28 Days Later and Sunshine. But even like his weirder roles, like I don't know if you've ever seen Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I think he's amazing.
I agree.
I'm going to blow your pants off. Are you ready?
Okay,
Cillian Murphy as Roland, and
hold on. I gotta undo my pants because I gotta.
Okay. Cillian Murphy as Roland and Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the Man in Black.
Ooh, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I would just like listen.
He would be so good as the Man. I never occurred to me, but because of our conversation, and I know how you feel about both of these actors.
Like, listen, I don't know if this is the right group for this, but like.
He's a handsome man.
Yes, that movie would make me feel ways.
So yeah, I think that's maybe our
that's
definitive
actually
casting.
Really good. Yeah,
it's actually really good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I sent you that painting. What do you think? This is a screenshot from the show or from the movie.
Is that the cover of the first book?
No, but you can see the tower, Roland, the door, and Rose. That is what he's painting in the first scene.
I mean, I never knew about this series back then, so that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, it's a weird sort of like you see him as Roland. He is kind of maybe a twinner for Roland in the Mist. I'm just saying.
So actually, twinners kind of flowed into my future stuff, by the way. So,
wait, what?
You said twinner?
Twinner. Oh, yes. Oh, interesting. Yes. That actually just reminded me I want to talk about a tweet that Stephen King sent this week when we get into our extended episode, because I want to know what you think about it. So I'm going to, or actually maybe I'll do it. I'll save it for the news section, but we're never going to get there if we don't get into this book. So let's get into this. So before we do, normally this is DJ's job and I'm going to do a very poor imitation of it. I want to let our listeners know what our spoiler policy is here in case this is their first time. Maybe they're big Here's Johnny fans or big Dread XP followers, and so they're following you here. I want them to know what they can expect, and that is that we will only spoil things that, leading up to this part of the book. Anything in this chapter and anything before is fair game for us to talk about. Any speculation or any spoilers, we will warn you. We will give you a timestamp so that you can skip forward if this is your first time reading the books.
And just to kind of butt in for a second, any speculations I have, I don't know, because like this is my first read through, and this is like where I stopped at the end of this part, at the end of this section.
Perfect. See, normally this is like me and DJ being like, how do I talk about this without spoiling things? Like, you can say whatever you want because it is impossible for you to spoil it.
Yeah, just in case you guys didn't know, Eddie and Roland fall in love, and they live it the rest of their lives together.
I would read that book. That sounds great.
So would I. Actually, you know what? Yeah, they should make that book. I mean, I'm sure that. Listen.
Now, are you rethinking your Man in Black casting? Like,
now that would be play Eddie.
Okay, but let's talk about this book.
Yeah,
all
right,
right,
we'll get there eventually. Sorry.
All right, where we left off. Okay, last time we were with our gang, they had just returned from their Toadash trip to New York, where they visited the Rose, except for Susanna, who has come to realize that she maybe is not so alone inside her body in a couple of different ways. And we pick up now with the section 2, Telling Tales, chapter 1, The Pavilion, and we're going to be reading sections 1 through 7. Tell me what happened in this book.
Okay, so Eddie is relieved to discover that he was a natural at riding horseback, since he had never been around horses and assumed that he would make a fool of himself as a gunslinger. Eddie tells Roland that the trip to New York was a different time, and it wasn't 19, and it felt real. He can't explain what that means, but Jake agrees.
Mm-hmm.
which, sorry, I've never been on the show before. Would you
Nope.
like me to wait until the end to interject?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm just denoting where I have things to say, but you chime in whenever you would like.
I thought that this was actually a very interesting character growth for Eddie, because it's him kind of realizing that, okay, I am a gunslinger. Like, he is kind of starting to become more of this world than his own world, or his old world, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
I'm still like weirded out with the 19 thing. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about 19.
I just assume it's like that really shitty Jim Carrey movie, The Number 23, where it's just like it's going to add up to something eventually. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, sorry. Eddie thinks that the horses of Calla aren't much like the ones he imagined in Aegis. But even though they are docile, he feels weirdly comfortable with them and knowledgeable about them. He asks for the stirrups to be adjusted. He ends up understanding on sight how to do it. Again, kind of realizing that he is more than he gives himself credit for, and he's kind of starting to become more a part of this world. It is not an epiphany, just a sense of already knowing. And when Jake asks for a poncho to carry Oi on horseback with him, something in the way he says it makes Eddie realize Jake feels the same way. And Eddie thinks it's almost like reincarnation and tells himself he can't be from the line of Eld, but the thought keeps coming back to him during the day and in his sleep.
Yeah. So there are two things that stood out to me in these two sections that I wanted to talk about because I think they're interesting. And one of them honestly, both of them you to some degree have already started hitting on. And the first one is when he's talking to Roland about the trip feeling real this time. And that it didn't feel 19, but as Jake describes it, it was real as roses, which I think is an interesting kind of comparison, right? So in some ways it kind of contextualizes more so what this 19 thing is, that there's something potentially false about it, inherent in the 19, that it would feel less real than the rose situation. And so my question is, like, I kind of wanted to know, because you haven't read these books, you don't know the significance of 19, if this obviously stood out to you, like what your theories are on it.
So obviously, like, names and places have kind of added up to 19. I think it's places. I might have just been names at this point in time. But I feel like so far it is just people who are aware of the path that are 19. I don't feel like I have a comfortable foothold on like what the number 19 specifically itself means. I think there's so I was trying to think, okay, maybe that's the amount of roads, but I think we learn actually earlier that it's like, I don't remember the number. I'm going to make a fool of myself, but I think it's like 7 or 12 or something like that.
What number is this? The 7 or 12 of what?
Sorry, the number of roads, like beams.
Beams. Got it. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I think I said roads. I meant beams. Sorry. I don't remember that exact number, so I was trying to think if it was that, but then I couldn't really kind of, or maybe like everything that's 19 is kind of like not a premonition, but like a guide to get back to the tower.
That's interesting. I had the same thought. Like, it's almost like a street. It's almost like a sign, right?
Yeah. Like, okay, so if you see the number 19 kind of thing, that's what you go with. And maybe that could be even what is kind of pulling Roland along, but we just don't know it yet, because he himself, because I feel like this book more than anything is us living through the eyes of like Eddie and Jake and Susanna, and not so much Roland. Like, yes, obviously we get his side of things,
right? But he's a little bit of a
like, it's more of like our worldview is now through the quartet instead of Roland. Whereas like the previous books were more Roland based, because like he has already kind of lived in this world and knows.
Interesting. That is interesting. Like, I mean, it makes sense that they would be our gateway, right? Because they're the characters we have the most in common with. So with that theory of it being sort of signposts, the fact that we're getting this weird contextualization of it being the opposite of the rose, how does that fit into your theory?
I don't know.
That's a totally valid answer, because it's confusing.
I mean, it could even be like, maybe the rose is I mean, every rose has its thorns, right? Like it could, I feel super corny saying that, but it could be like, hey, maybe the rose isn't exactly everything you thought it was going to be, but you should follow number 19 said kind of thing. I don't really know how to like.
That's interesting, because last time I was talking about how I felt like, I know the rose is supposed to be a force of good. Like that is what we're constantly told by the books. But the things that it says are so seductive that they sound like love bombing, or like the kind of language that you would use to manipulate someone. Like how it's like, here is peace. Here is, feeling complete. Here is everything you want, essentially, which is exactly what someone trying to manipulate you would say. And so even though I know it's supposed to be good, there's a little part of me that doesn't trust the rose. So it's interesting that you maybe feel some of that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that more comes from, I feel like at this point, I kind of know how Stephen King writes. Whereas like what is in front of you is kind of not what you're supposed to be looking at, or like what he wants you to obviously look at. But good things can turn out bad sometimes. Like, I feel like there's a lot of that in like it specifically. And I've been told that there's like some weird connection between it and the Dark Tower at some point in time. I don't think I've come across it yet. I don't know, but I mean, obviously, like there's a bunch of turtle talk, but that's
a bunch of turtle talk.
I mean, I'm not wrong, right?
No, you are not wrong. I just hadn't heard it that way, and now it's how I'm going to say it.
Well, there's a bunch of turtle talk, and there's a big turtle at the end of it, right?
I mean, the turtle's like, the turtle's a big deal. The turtle's in it. The turtle's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm assuming the like kind of crossover was. I don't know if it's something else entirely.
Okay. So the other thing that really stands out in this section to me is obviously, and again, you've touched on this a little bit, was Eddie and Jake's natural talent for riding a horse. And at first my interpretation was like, okay, this is just like one of those things where they have a natural gift for it in the same way that they just sort of picked up shooting. And I think it's reinforced by the fact that Eddie says that this feeling that he has most similar to the first time he strapped on Roland's gun. But I also feel like King spends a long time really focusing on this and introducing this idea that he feels like he is in the line of Eld, and that Jake also similarly has the same kind of feeling. I'm curious what you think King is trying to say here.
So this is actually where one of my theories completely pivoted. So I wasn't sure if I should bring that up here, but I can.
I mean, it's not a potential spoiler because you don't actually know.
I have
no
idea.
Go ahead.
So the chapter before this, sorry, it's weirdly separated in Audible, so I'm not sure if it's like the chapter. It's basically the first part of the book. There's a lot of like twin talk, so I wasn't sure. Like to me, this kind of pivoted to the point of me thinking, okay. So maybe there are twins, right? Twinners, I think is what they're called. I think they were mentioned like once or twice.
Yes.
Maybe more than that, honestly. It's all kind of blending together. But the whole thing with twinners is like they are the same people. It's kind of like when Jake saw himself.
Yeah.
Right? So there is like two versions of Jake. But he kind of has like memories from the other Jake as well. And I feel like that is what was going on here. But because they've kind of come to terms with who they are. So like other Eddie, who has also been like maybe like Eddie's mid-world side, like before Eddie came over, had like ridden a horse kind of thing. Like
interesting.
Yeah. Same with like shot a gun or like, so it's either that or it's like a time loop, which I would not be surprised about.
Interesting. Okay. What do you think about the whole idea that, he's reincarnated from the line of Eld?
So for me, that was kind of that kind of feeds into like the whole time loop of it all for me, because I think if it is, I kind of have obviously a couple of theories. Who wouldn't? But the whole time loop theory is okay. They've already done this, so this is just kind of them going back in, but they have no memory of doing it again, or they have like some kind of like almost like almost like reflexive memory, but not actually like set in stone memories of it.
That's
So they've already done
interesting.
this. So that he's already shot guns. He's already ridden these horses. Or, maybe not. Maybe everything's not the exact same. But so I believe that one of my theories is that...
Like on a different level of the tower kind of thing?
Yes. So like my idea behind this is that he doesn't think he's from the line of Eld when really he is the line of Eld.
That's interesting. I do think it's interesting that he's like later on in this chapter to reach the point where he's like questioning his own parentage. Like he's like, Wendell's supposedly my dad, but
exactly.
like this has gotten into his head to the point where he's now like,
And they even talk earlier in the book about they ask Roland how long he's been after the tower. And
right.
I forget the exact number he says, but it's like, I mean, obviously time moves weird in Midworld.
Yeah. Time is a face on the water.
I'm not going to know any callbacks, just so you know.
It's the first like chapter. It's like the name of the first chapter in this book. Yeah. It's fine. Okay. You have not been doing. You have not gone through these books like the way I have. Although I totally shanked that first reference. So who am I to judge?
I mean, I can do it again if you want.
No, I don't care. It's fine.
No. But yeah, I mean that's where it's kind of hard because I do have like.
Yeah, I like how like major your theories are. I'm never this imaginative.
I mean, listen, it's the saw of it all, right? Like you have to.
Yeah.
For me, whenever I read these, especially these books where I know there's like mysteries surrounding it all, it's like, okay, what's like the layer underneath that they don't want you to see? But
right.
Stephen King also does. I think he does a really good job of like, no, don't look there, look here. Yeah. And he like keeps talking about this one thing that like maybe somewhat has to do with what is really going on, but he is also talking about the kind of the major parts of it, but like very subtly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right. There's a section we'll get into in a little bit about how he loves to sort of tip his hand.
Yes.
That we'll definitely need to come back to what you're saying now. All right. That's all I got for this section.
Okay. So in section 3, as they're eating lunch while riding, Jake approaches Roland to ask him something. As Din, is that his name?
Din is like the leader of their group, basically.
Okay. Jake tells Roland that Ben invited him to come stay with him out at the Rocking Bee. When Roland asks him if he wants to go, Jake blushes and says yes, because having another set of eyes would get on the place will give them a better picture. Roland is sad to see that Jake is embarrassed to do something as simple and kid-like as having a sleepover. His experiences and Roland himself have robbed him of that. He carefully answers in a way to avoid discouraging Jake to stay with Ben for as long as he wants. Roland and the rest of them will be staying with
Callahan.
Oh my god.
So he's the priest guy.
Okay. See, priest? Yes, absolutely. Jake, now with a mission, rides off, excited to have a friend and go and play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found this section super bittersweet because one of the things that I love so much about these books is Roland's relationship with Jake. Because he's kind of like the son he never had or almost had.
Well, did have kind of killed him, and then
there was also like Susan being pregnant, and you know what I mean, like that. All those losses that Jake kind of fills that role. And over the course of these books, I mean, obviously it's a rocky start. I think we can all agree. But
over on rocks,
literally a rocky start. Yeah. So, but over the course of these books, that father-son relationship really is one of the most tender connections. Like I know obviously Eddie and Susanna are married, but I don't think that you ever get the same kind of, as much as I care about both of them, like their relationship doesn't mean as much to me as Jake and Roland's is. And it's these little moments, it's these little inconsequential character moments where you really see this softer side of Roland, where you really see this, like in the best way, paternalistic side of Roland. That he not only like cares about this kid, but he mourns for the things that this child has had to sacrifice because of his life experiences. Is really, I don't know. So I pulled this quote because I just thought it was important and also some nice foreshadowing, perhaps. Okay. The boy, the gunslinger, realized how much he wanted to continue calling Jake that, and how short the time was apt to be. He had a bad feeling about Calla Bryn Sturgis. So, like, here you see him kind of longing to hold on to this boy's childhood a little bit, which I'm sure as a parent you can identify with.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
You get this idea that there's this prediction of what's to come, that no matter what comes out of the next step that they go through here, that he's going to lose that innocence. And it kind of harkens back to his own loss of innocence with his first kind of big mission in Magus. So as a parent, did this scene resonate for you at all?
I mean, absolutely. Like, it's, it's even my son, who is 6 going on 7. It's like he's kind of at that point where things are starting to change really quickly. And it's wild. And
is it freaking you out?
Oh, it's absolutely like, and it's like, there is definitely like an urge to like, oh no, like stay where you like, you don't need to grow up, like stay that age, like please.
Yeah.
Especially because I know what comes next.
I know. And they say that you're as bad as you are as a kid, your kids will punish you for. Like, that's the karmic justice.
Michelle and I have sat down on multiple occasions and just been like, oh, we're so fucked when they're teenagers. Like, we are so fucked. This is not going to be good.
But yeah, I think on that note, like, I think so much of this book is about time passing. And, we were talking about the Stranger Things kids. Like, when you watch, like, when you see adult actors like Paul Rudd, you're like, time is still standing still. But you look at these young people who are going through parts of their life where they change really rapidly, and you really feel the weight of that time. Like, Jake exists kind of in that place where you, as soft as time is in Midworld, watching him grow and change and grow up, like, makes time present in a way that is unavoidable. And time is such a through line with this book. Like, there are so many ticking clocks in this book that he is kind of an encapsulation of that, I think.
So this is actually another part where
here we go. The grand theory of Jake, part 2.
Yeah. Do you just want me to tell you it now? I'll tell you now.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Having read Stephen King books before, Stephen King likes to write. Well, I was going to say Misery, but he already wrote that one.
Great book, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, the I forget what the like thing's called, but gross.
Cauterizing of the stumps. Is that what
I just meant like stumping them, like
the blowtorch. Though, come on. I love Stephen King so much. He's such a sicko. I love it.
But he likes to write, like really, like depressing things. Like not in.
He wants to hurt you a little bit.
Yes, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He likes to write misery. And I don't think that Jake will be with us for very much longer.
Interesting.
I don't know if by the end of this book, but maybe by the end of next book, I think Jake is going to die.
That is really interesting. And so the purpose of that would be for what?
Just to like completely break him. I think it is like
you think he's going to go full monster.
I don't think he's going to go bad.
Okay, because there's this whole thing about like the tower.
Oh, I mean,
if you get to the tower with your heart closed, it will turn you into a monster. So you think he's going to go monster.
Did somebody just turn the PS5 on?
Yes. Oh my God. You got a good ear. He's like,
listen, I know my sounds, okay?
You sure do. That was amazing.
I've heard the sound a lot, okay?
Okay. That was funny.
Sorry, but no, I don't think he's going to turn into a monster. I think that maybe he will kind of. This is kind of where it gets a little tricky. There will be almost another twinner situation.
Oh, you think there's another Jake?
That we will get.
Interesting.
from the baby.
Oh, I like the way you think. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just feel like it is the way that Stephen King likes to write. And I not so much what I have read, but like in this series, but more so the author.
Okay.
And obviously, like the baby being born would maybe like open up Susanna to like reach the Dark Tower. I mean, if they even reach the Dark Tower, who knows? It could be like kind of an ongoing thing that they eventually just give up on. I don't know.
Interesting. Oh, maybe. So you think they're going to give up on the Dark Tower?
That's a theory, not like the main one, but a theory is there's a bunch of it's like a tree. There's a bunch of branches. Okay.
Interesting. These are very interesting theories. Have you ever thought about writing? Oh wait, you are a writer, but have you ever thought about writing like fiction?
Once.
Because you have I like how your mind works. I would read that book.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it. I've always wanted to write a movie or a book.
You should.
But I don't know. It's got a lot of time. I don't get that kind of time.
I'm enjoying the Justin remix.
Oh, well,
I'm into it. Okay, all right.
Well, I mean, it could also be just because it's not what you're used to hearing. So,
I mean, I like it. So whatever. I don't need whether I would
listen.
Read
it. I don't know if DJ listens to these when he's not on them.
Probably not.
Okay. Well, tell him my theories because I would love his opinions. I would love his take as well. I want takes.
Okay.
I don't want answers. I do not want answers, but I want.
My take is I think that's really interesting, and one of the things I love about these books is it invites you. I feel like, and this might also just be that I have a conspiratorial turn of mind, but I feel like it invites you to engage on that level of sort of speculation and like going deeper. Like you don't just like let the book wash all over you. Like you are trying actively a participant while reading it, and I think it asks you to like try to puzzle things together, and it gives you just enough to make it hard, like and to push your imagination. And I think that's definitely evident in the way that I tinfoil hat in it. And also like you have really come up with like a complex theory that is based not just in like this is the pattern of like the typical plot points, but are based in what you know about the characters. That's crazy. That's awesome. That's good writing, and like also you have a creative mind that can go there. All right, okay, let's get into this next section because we still got a few to go.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, so this is section 4. The quartet gets their first look at Calla, however you want to say it.
I think it's Calla.
Calla. Okay. I'll go. Yeah. Okay. I'll probably say it both ways.
You know what? Say it however you want. It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
People know. They know.
Yeah. The town. Well.
But Calla sounds much more like fantasy. I like
Calla.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Already, I can see our D&D arc starting in Calla.
Right? Exactly. But yeah, so they get their first look at Calla and they are impressed. But all of them can't help but look at what's beyond. Below them is a river known as the Devartiti. Why? I don't know how to say that.
Nailed it. You said it right.
Then cultivated fields and farms. Eddie caught sight of railroad tracks heading into the desert. Beyond it is a great veil of blackness, which Talia Jaffords tells them is Thunderclap.
Ooh. Right. So just a couple of things that stood out to me here, and I want to obviously want you to talk about what stood out to you as well, is that absolutely. The whole group of them is looking past the town to Thunderclap. And he comes out and he's like, oh wow, and all the people with them assume they're talking about their town, because it is definitely an anomaly for Midworld based on everything that has come before it, right?
Well, see, but, I guess everything that's come before it, but even Roland, I believe in an earlier chapter, says like he doesn't really know this part of Midworld.
No, he's never been here.
Yeah, so this is all new to him, right?
But I think what makes it an anomaly is, yes, it's new, but also we are living in a world where everything is broken down. Everything. Like the height of civilization is gone. Everything is slid into this like world moving on situation. And then he gets to this place that's on the edge of Endworld, where it's right next to Thunderclap, which is just like darkness and chaos, and yet there's this perfectly preserved, functioning community that is not just rural. There's also factories and electricity, and there's a town that's an amusement park. Like all of these things that are totally counter to everything they've seen before in these books. The closest thing we've had to Calla Bryn Sturgis is Magus, and even that was starting to slide into something else. Or they were talking about like it had been impacted by whatever cataclysmic thing had led to the world moving on, because they're talking about like threaded stock and things like that. And here is this place that seems untouched. So that's wild. But Roland and the gang aren't even looking at it. They're busy looking at Thunderclap. And what's interesting here is it's not that surprising. Eddie even remarks on like Roland he has wanderer's eyes. He's always looking to the future. But so are Jake and Eddie and Susanna. They are more like Roland now than they are like the people they started off as. They have the same, they are moving closer and closer to being like Roland himself, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to like before, right? They're starting to become, well, I mean, like you said, actually, they're starting to become more of this world than their original world. I don't know if that's the right way to put that, but they are more the gunslinger versions of themselves than like their original versions. Well,
absolutely, absolutely, and I mean, it's all very like Mordor-esque. You know, like they see the town and it's something that's in their way, something they have to deal with.
Yeah.
But their eyes are definitely on the prize. And I think that's true of us too. Like we're like, tell me about Thunderclap.
Yeah.
But they gotta deal with Calla Bryn Sturgis first.
Also, something's going up with Andy. I don't know what it is yet, but I mean, I assumed...
I don't remember, but he seems shady. I have a theory, but I think it might be right, so I won't tell you.
So I think that he is the one giving the information to the wolves.
I mean, he must be, right?
Well, how else do they know that, like, when, like, the second people move, basically, right?
Yeah.
If they try to hide people, they know.
Yeah. And there was that part where Eddie was talking to him when he, like, crept up on Eddie going to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, and he was like, oh, I can't. I forget exactly what it is, but he's like, oh, there's some, like, basically program.
Yeah.
Or, I forget the wording he uses, but there's a thing blocking.
It's like Order 19 or something like that.
Yes.
But he also, there's this moment where Eddie's like, wait. Like, he's looking at him and he's like, can robots feel disdain for people?
Yeah.
But he just like, and he needs to trust those gunslinger instincts. I don't trust Andy. I don't remember exactly how it resolves with Andy.
I actually don't trust this entire town, to be honest with you.
Really?
I have bad feelings about this town.
Well, I mean, so does Eddie.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
That's like, it reminds me when they're going, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it totally reminded me when they're going into town, not just where they reference or they talk about Susanna or Susan being taken in for Reap Night, but because we've read more of Roland's story than Eddie knows, it reminded me of when he's going into the town where the Little Sisters of Eluria are.
Yes.
I was like, oh, here come the slow muties. But we'll see. I mean, like, he doesn't speak very kindly of the people in town. They might as well be slow muties.
No, and well, when we get to that,
I love this. You have so many theories.
Well, I mean,
I know, I love it.
You know,
I'm making heart eyes at the microphone right now. Because usually DJ's just right? Like, when I have my theories.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's... Like I said, it's like the Saw lover in myself. I always want to look past what is actually being like told to us, and I like to try and guess. So you know, it's the whodunit of it all. It just
I mean, no one pulls the wool over old Justin's eyes.
Well, it happens a lot, but you know, whatever.
Or do they?
Yeah.
The other thing that stood out to me in this section that I wanted to touch on is Andy trying to give Susanna her horoscope. So basically everyone in town has done everything they can to make us feel like there's no credibility to what he says. But we, as you know, readers of the book, know there's just enough truth in what he's saying that's recognizable now to know that it's worth hearing. Well, to know that we want to hear it.
So right now, obviously, he's talking about, well, I mean, the handsome man could be Eddie.
I want to break it down. So okay. So the first thing he says, you will meet a handsome man. Who the hell is the handsome man? Do you have any theories? I actually don't know.
I have a theory that it is going to be the leader of the wolves.
Oh, interesting. That could be. I don't remember.
Right? Because I mean,
this is a situation where I genuinely don't know who it is.
He could be handsome, right? Because I mean, they're
in masks, right?
Exactly. And like I always thought, okay, well, not always, but while I was kind of reminiscing on what I heard just a few hours ago, I was like, okay, well, he can't. I don't know. I mean, it could be about Eddie, but I feel like all this is future stuff. And because I also thought, okay, well, maybe it can be Roland, but they always actually kind of describe Roland as like ugly. I think they actually use ugly as like a term.
That's what Eddie calls him: big, tall, and ugly.
Yeah. So I don't think it could be him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's somebody we haven't met.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it says you will meet him. So
yeah.
Leads me to believe it's got to be somebody new.
Yeah.
And then you will have two ideas, one bad and one good. So to me, this kind of speaks to, it could be literally two ideas. Like she has a good idea and a bad idea.
Yeah.
But there's also a duality to Susanna. As we know, there are two people inside that body right now.
Yeah.
And so
for me, this was like, oh, sorry. No, I keep interrupting. You go ahead.
I don't care. Go for it. Okay, I like how excited you are. This is fun.
I was just going to say, for me, this was like, I knew, obviously I could be wrong, but I felt like I knew immediately that he was talking about the kind of two people fighting for control right now, right? Because we had Detta and she's gone.
Yeah.
Well, not gone, but like merged.
Yeah. Integrated.
Integrated. That's a better word. And now there's Mia.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, kind of, obviously Mia is the twinner of Anna. Well, I say obviously, that could be true. I don't know, but I'm assuming that she is the twinner. But when she toe dashed, something got crossed.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, well, see, I don't know, but that doesn't really make sense though, because she showed up after the Emerald Tower or the Emerald City, but I don't remember if they toe dashed in the Emerald City or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing with that we still don't have answers for, I don't know if we get answers or how it works, is they're in the Emerald City and then they wake up and they're really far away.
Yes.
But there are tracks that lead from the Emerald City to where they are. So they were in some sort of hypnotic state or something in that interim time. We don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they even earlier in the book they mentioned like we still don't know how we got here. Basically, I think it's when they meet. It's probably before they meet the priest because I don't think Roland would have actually told the priest that.
Right, and I don't know if they were close enough to Black 13 for it to be working its magic on them or not. Because as they get closer and closer to Black 13, it seems like it's getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, like they're toe dashing more and more.
Are you so excited to see Black 13?
I only because of what happened with the Wizard's Rainbow, I believe is what it was called. I'm excited.
All right, and then the last thing is you will have a dark-haired what? Do we assume it's the baby, or do we think maybe that's a misdirect?
Well, I'm trying to remember what I gotta look this up. Jake.
I will say, I'm like, shut up, Oberhoser. I was listening to that. Don't interrupt. All right, okay. So we think probably it's the baby. We don't think it's a misdirect.
I think it could be. Well, just because I assume that there is a baby.
What I love about these horoscopes so far is it feels to me like they work the same way the prophetic dreams do, where you recognize some things and you think like, oh, I know what this means. And then later when you go back, there's actually everything matters and it all meant something. I love that. It's such a payoff later. Like even stupid things like at the palaver and they're talking about purple blades of grass and then you get to the rose and there's purple blades. Yeah. I love all that stuff. I get all that's when I get like, push pins with red yarn on a cork board and that's what makes it happen. It's not my fault.
No, I'm really stuck in that dark hair. Why do they got to cut people off like that though? That's so
rude.
Let them at least finish.
We were listening to that. Jeez. All right, next section.
Okay. So this is section 5. In a forward aside, Eddie thinks he never forgot his encounter with the people of Calla because it was so full of surprises. He remembers the way the torches change after the speaking was done. He remembers Oy saluting the crowd, his anger at Roland, Susan sitting at a piano bench, and above all, Roland dancing. He also remembers the ride down to Calla's High Street and his premonition of foreboding.
Yep. King loves to pull this Kingism where he gives us the full foreshadow.
Yes.
And it's funny because he's like, these things were very surprising to Eddie, so I'm just going to tell you about them now. But it works for me because then what he describes is so wild. Like Roland dancing, Eddie being mad at him. Like it's very intriguing. But also it ratchets up that tension by being like you feel like it's someone who's talking about something after something bad has happened.
Yeah, and it's almost like so this is kind of going back to the whole twinning Eddie thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he is remembering parts that we are seeing now and parts that have maybe happened in the past. Like maybe, maybe the last time they were here, or he was here, even they didn't take to them as
like
well.
A twinner.
Yes, but he is having the memories of both.
And like, do you think it's like something that's happening simultaneously on another level of the tower, like a twinner?
It could just be like a straight up and down, like alternate dimension, maybe. And he's kind of
Yeah.
So in section 6, the quartet reaches the town just before sunset, but the town is seemingly empty, and the quiet gives Eddie the creeps. It reminds him of the story of Susan being brought down into the town on Reap Night. The whole town is waiting for them at the pavilion. The town silently watches as they enter and get up on stage. Overholzer, sorry, that name is just weird to me.
It is a weird one.
Yeah. It takes the feather and tells him that despite his initial misgivings, he now thinks that the quartet can help them, and they are indeed from the line of Eld. Then he introduces them. First, Roland comes out, plunks down his heel, and the sound of which reminds him of a coffin. They each take turns introducing themselves, including Oy, who imitates the leg bow, to the amazement of everyone except Roland. Then with a warning, Roland tells the crowd that Eddie will be speaking to them. Eddie is furious, but ultimately he does a good job, saying they are going to look around to see if they can help. They will, but the people have to do their part as well. The crowd claps and cheers. Eddie realizes, like Cuthbert before him, he is Roland's mouthpiece. The town is seemingly on their side, so they go have their feast, though Eddie still can't shake the feeling of foreboding.
The thing that always stands out to me is, and I've said this before on the show, is that history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. And I think that there's some of that, right? Like yes. There's this echo of time where he's remembering Magus because there's this like quiet town and the sense of foreboding. But then there's also little like weird details, like the fact that the livery stable in Caliburn Sturgis is called the Traveler's Rest, which obviously was a place in Magus. Well, I don't remember that, but believe me, it's true.
I do not, but okay.
And so I think that is interesting, and it like, because you've got my brain thinking with this like looping idea, and I was thinking like maybe it's not so much looping as it is just sort of like this resonance, like this psychic resonance that's just like constantly rhyming, and maybe that's what Eddie's picking up on, is these like almost ripple effects of like, I don't know.
Well, and like, see, that's why it's kind of hard to talk. I mean, it's hard to talk about time loop, right? Because it reminds me of.
Do you know what the worst part of a time loop is?
What?
Do you know what the worst part of a time loop is?
God
damn it. I can't believe I got you with that. I also hate myself a little bit. My personality is the worst.
No, it's okay. Because let me tell you this: if I knew that whole thing before you did, I would have tried to work it in. So we're good.
Yeah, your kids are getting at the age you'll be able to drop that on them and drive them nuts.
Oh, I have already pulled off the hi hungry, I'm dad.
Oh my God, you are a dad.
Yeah.
You thought it was when your child was born you became a father, but no. It was in that moment.
You reach that moment in the sleeping, sitting up just like randomly after work on a couch.
I don't know why that like touches my heart so much. It's just that. Okay, so the other thing that we get is we start to really get the shape of the culture of this town. And we had little bits and pieces, like obviously we had the prologue where we met Tien and Zalia, and we've had the town meeting where we kind of understand like the Manny are around, and there's like a very sort of agrarian kind of hierarchy in the, it's like very rural sort of farm community. Yeah. But now through Eddie's eyes, we get to see the culture a little bit differently. He humanizes it. We get to see the parts where, these people are, equal parts fear and hope. We get to see what it's like to be a child there. Up until this point, we've really only ever seen an adult perspective and like what it means to be a parent in this place. But now we see the kids. Wait, am I ahead of myself? I think I am ahead of myself.
That's okay though. It's
okay. Well, anyways, we get to see part of the culture. We'll come back to the children. Sorry about that. I pulled a DJ. I got ahead of myself.
I mean, you had to assume it was going to happen, right? With all the talk about how, I mean, Jake's whole thing is going to be with the kids.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my God. Maybe he's going to get taken by a wolf.
Maybe.
He's that age. He's the age.
Maybe not. So,
what? All right.
Okay, so let's talk about what happened on the stage. One of the things I really love, there's like a kind of a moment here where Roland is on stage and they're describing the lights on his face. There's there's the red glow of the sun on one side. It says the red sun set his left cheek on fire, and the right was painted yellow with torch glow. He put out one leg. The thunk of a worn boot heel on the boards was very clear in the silence. Eddie, for no reason, thought of a fist knocking on a coffin top, which is obviously just like rad writing, like it's incredibly evocative. But to me, I was kind of trying to think about the symbolism of this moment, because I think that there is a lot of metaphor happening, that he has these two lights that are lighting up his face, followed by him kicking the ground and it sounding like a coffin. And to me, my interpretation of this, and you can tell me if you feel differently or if this went way by you and I'm tinfoil hatting, is that like basically what we're seeing is Roland at a transition point, right? He's moving from the past to the future, and mixed in this metaphor is this thing about a coffin, which to me, and this ties into your theories, is what he's moving away from. Yeah, he's moving towards death.
Yes. So for me, it was because the whole coffin thing, specifically for Eddie, is because we are hearing about it through Eddie's eyes, Eddie's point of view, right? So it could even be that maybe Roland has always been this way, but Eddie is now just kind of seeing these two sides to him.
Interesting.
And obviously the coffin thing, well, if you want me to say it again, I will. I think Eddie's going to die.
But why would he see it on Roland? Are you saying like he's just hearing the death knells himself? Or do you, I kind of felt like Roland's moving towards either like killing or dying, or the road ahead equals death. But so you think specifically this is Eddie because it's his perspective.
So I think that is like the main takeaway here is that it is from Eddie's perspective, right? He could maybe see, because he doesn't like say it looks like a coffin. He says it sounds like a coffin. So to me, that's like a sound he has. It could be he feels like there is a lot of death coming.
Yeah, I mean, he does have that like sense of foreboding.
Yeah, and it could be from whatever happens with the wolves, right? Like he is almost like his subconscious is like preparing himself to deal with death.
That's interesting.
Whether it is like dealing it out, because obviously last time he had like a big dealing with death. Like it's hard because I don't remember where he came in with the TikTok man. By the way,
where he came in, he never saw. Are you talking about he never
like
saw TikTok man in
right?
Lud,
right? No, like he almost went directly to Blaine, right?
Yeah, well, he and Susanna went to the cradle, and then they had to fight all of the Greys
So
or
I
the Pubes. I don't know, one of them.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like the last time Eddie had to deal with like a lot of death, because obviously like you think of Balazar's place.
I mean, it probably would have been Blood, because there was that shootout with all those people that he killed, and he even references here where he's like, or later in this chapter, he's talking about like he likes the finality of the answer with a gun, but then he talks about how like, you know, he shot some guy on his birthday. So I think that was the last one.
So maybe, I mean, maybe it is kind of, we weren't really getting Eddie's viewpoint back then. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's definitely shifted a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it could just be Eddie's subconscious getting him ready to either deal with death or deal death.
Do you think it's an issue where he kind of has the shine and so he can like sense an impending death?
Oh, I didn't even think about the shine being involved.
So many layers, so many rabbit holes to go down.
Oh my god, he could have the shine though. That is, well, point. But I mean,
I do think Eddie has the shine. I think they all I think Jake has the most, and Roland has the least, and Eddie is somewhere in the middle. And so is Susanna, because Susanna has this ability to see things she was not present for, so she definitely has the shine.
They also talk about the shining in the shining, about as you get older it gets weaker, right?
Yeah,
and I mean, that's true. Roland is the oldest one, right? He's kind of lost. He's like losing his touch
very old, apparently. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. What else? Oh, this I think is interesting. When they all introduce each other, they all refer to themselves as being part of the line of Eld, which is, we talked about earlier, something that has been on Eddie's mind and potentially on Jake's, because he also says it. And then they say quartet of 19, quartet of 19, quartet of 99. Any theories what that means?
No.
Okay, that's okay.
Obviously, no. It was like, part of me wants to say like maybe he had a straight answer would be maybe he had to say that in a way, kind of in a way like that, so Oi could say it, like Oi could.
Because we do get Oi talking here.
Yeah, well, exactly, and he also says like quartet of 19 or whatever.
Oi, Eld, something else. I can't remember what it was.
Well, yeah, exactly. Love this. It's Oi speak, right?
Yeah, I mean, I to me, I kind of felt like the speculation over whether or not he speaks is over. Like he seems to be speaking here, not just mimicking.
No, I mean, Roland tells him. Roland tells him to like what to do.
Yeah,
and he does it.
Oh my god, I love Oi so much. I'm so glad you love Oi too.
Oh, who doesn't love Oi?
I mean, serial killers.
I was going to say, does DJ not like Oi? Because
he, of course, he doesn't like Oi like we like Oi, but he likes Oi.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
I told you he thought he was like Jar Jar Binks. So,
oh boy, yeah. If I thought he was like Jar Jar Binks, I wouldn't like him either.
Right?
Oh, I don't know. The 99 thing is.
Is it messing with you now?
Well, the problem with it is, I think I will have more of an opinion on it when I know what 19 is.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I can kind of put meanings to the numbers.
Yeah, I think you will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing is Eddie has a realization that Roland has made him his mouthpiece. And I think, moreover, the most important sort of takeaway here is that it tells you how much the relationship between Eddie and Roland has evolved. You know, that the thing he thought about Eddie was that he was just this idiot who ran his mouth, and now he has enough respect and trust in him that he's willing to let Eddie speak for him.
Yeah, I mean, he lets Eddie speak for him and like the entire group, right? Like the entire quartet. Mm-hmm. I said that too fast and it didn't sound right, so I had to re-say it. Sorry. Some of these words you got to take slow for a purpose. But yeah, it's like their relationship is evolving. And, all right, so on to our final section today.
The finale.
Section 7. After Eddie's speech, they sit down to eat a huge feast. After a toast, the light changes color to a red color. They all applaud. Eddie looks around and sees that the kids have joined them and speculates which will be most affected by the culling. Very dark, by the way. He also wonders about the Runt children.
Runt.
Yeah, Runt children who are off at a party. The townsfolk come to ask him tons of questions, all of which shrug off until he's approached.
I wasn't expecting you to read this. I would have been more careful.
Until he is approached by the worst person in this book so far, Telford.
Yeah, Telford sucks.
Yeah, begins questioning him and if he's a real gunslinger. Eddie takes an instant dislike to him and can tell that Telford will never come to their side until they're successful. Actually, I'm trying to remember like word for word what he says, but he's like, if they win, he's basically going to say that he was on their side the whole time.
Well, I have the quote right
here.
Perfect,
because it's like
I have the book open in front of me.
Fair enough.
It is. No need, Telford smiled. It was a handsome Pa Cartwright smile, and in it Eddie saw one thing clear. This man would never come over to their side. Not that was until and unless every wolf out of Thunderclap lay dead at the town's inspection in this very pavilion. And if that happened, he would claim that he had been with him from the very first.
And it lets you know who Telford is immediately. Oh, yeah. Like, shitty person. I hate him so much already.
Yeah, when he comes up and refers to Jake as their Cobb Abbey.
Yeah,
which is like such diminishing language. Eddie was like, nope. He did not like that at all. Yeah, I also like the sort of subtle character reveal of the handshake when he's feeling his hand, and there's just a few little calluses where he holds the rope. You know he doesn't get his hands dirty. Like he's always on horseback lording over the people who are doing the manual labor. Like it tells you
he's
so
a horrible
much about
person.
Him.
Yes. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he is the one giving the wolves the information.
I mean, he could be. He certainly could be. I don't actually know. So this one is not me trying to misdirect you.
This one's just it's weird to me because not weird. It's hard for me to kind of gauge where he is because we also have Andy, who at this point is kind of put in the back row while we're meeting all these people. So it's because then if it is Andy, I wonder if he's got like a.
I can totally see your Saw DNA in this. You're like, who's not on screen?
Yeah, well, and that's what it is, right? Like, who in this scene is in the background because they've got to be doing something,
right?
I don't know. I don't like Telford though. He is bad business.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting too is when he talks about Wayne, Overholser, he calls him Wayne the Weather Vane. Which makes me wonder if he's the ally that they think they have. It makes me a little nervous about Overholser too. But it could also just be Telford being a dick. I don't know. I know that King is telling us something, and I don't know if he's telling us about Telford or if he's warning us about Overholser, but something is happening there.
I think it's the whole town. I really don't think. Obviously, the parents are. Something's going on.
They've got skin in the game.
Yes, something's going on.
Yeah, I do think, and I accidentally got ahead of myself, I did think his assessment of the town in this section is really interesting. Because it drives home how horrifying it would be into this town, even though like some of these older people are like, hey, 23 years apiece, that's great. But for other people with the parents and the kids who have children of this particular age group, like this is not 23 years doesn't matter. This is now for them. So I don't know. I think, and then there's these moments where we see that they're capable of great kindness as a town. Like the fact that the Runt children aren't just like shut away somewhere, but they're at a party having ice cream and cake and stuff. And they're taking care of them to some degree with kindness, while at the same time being too cowardly to protect their children. I don't know. There's a complex, nuanced psychology to this town that I think in lesser hands we wouldn't really get. Whereas this feels human in that it's both, there are good things about this town, but there are also flaws to these people in this culture. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about all that.
I don't know. I mean, for me, because this was kind of the last part, it's when I read a book, it's weird. Usually, the last part is something that never really like grasps in my brain, so I always have to like go back a little bit. Like
you're running out of steam at the end.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's like, so for example, today, this was the only part I listened to, like this whole like the 7 sections. So it was like an hour, I believe, just over an hour.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the last part, and anytime I do this, always the last like section or chapter never sticks. So I always so for example, if I was going to listen to this tomorrow, I would go back and re-listen to this last part again and just kind of like ingrain it in my brain a little bit.
Interesting.
So unfortunately, I don't really have much to say about the last part.
Yeah, there's some subtle stuff in here, but I don't think it's the most important part. It's just like, again, we're like world building. I also think you want to talk about people on the fringes of this. The Manny are present, but nobody's spoken to the Manny yet. And they're interesting because they're the ones that also have like, they're the ones that like talk about walking between worlds and stuff like that. Because remember, that's who, the leader of the Coffin Hunters, he had spent time with the Manny and talks about that in Wizard and Glass. And remember, they were the ones that were like, just give them all the children. Let's just kill all the children. Remember them? Yeah. The Manny are interesting. I'm waiting for Roland to go chat with the Manny because I feel like they're going to tell us some stuff.
I don't know if that's like you telling me like, hey, just wait until he talks to them, because
no, I don't remember. This is me having a shit memory and not remembering, but I'm fascinated by the Manny.
Okay.
So this is me anticipating and wanting to see it. So here's the things. I've read these books and I remember like major plot beats.
Yes, obviously.
But I would say 85% gone. It's like a first time read. So some of the things I'm saying are me like trying to like not give you a solid answer because I don't want to say yay or nay. Some of it is just me being like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Okay. Sounds good. I like that theory. That sounds cool. Sure, why not? I can see how that would eventually end up to where I remember. So yeah. All right. So overall, what did you think of this chapter?
It was okay. I think it gave me like a new light on some theories, obviously.
Okay.
Which is always important. But I don't know. Other than that, again, it's like it's setup, right? So I think setup is important. I don't think it's the most like exciting stuff.
That's fair.
But it's important because with it, the setup, nothing matters. Yeah. And that's what this is, right? Like, yeah. The Dark Tower series is great at setup. I mean, it's also great at like the outcome and the climax. It has a good like build and like it climax, build and climax kind of thing. Man, back to like the vinegar stroke stuff. Yeah, I get it.
See, it all comes back. It all comes back full circle.
I don't even know if that was in the episode or not. I don't know if that was before or not.
It'll go in now. Okay, you just locked it in.
but yes, that's fair. It's important, and obviously there are going to be some things in here that end up, being whatever, not mattering really, but it's all important and it all gives more flavor to the world, and so it all means that when something happens in this world, it's more impactful. So do I think it's exciting? No. Do I think it's important? Yes. How did I feel about it? It's okay. I'm more looking forward to what is happening, what is going to happen.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. There's some good stuff ahead, I think.
Okay.
So as longtime listener to this podcast know, I love world building and I love interpersonal psychology and relationships. So I loved this chapter. I also love the action beats and I'm excited to see what comes. But like those quiet sort of moments of character growth and connection with Jake and Roland at the beginning when he's like, nervous to tell him that he wants to go have a slumber party with his friend, or Eddie having these realizations that Roland now respects him enough to have him be his mouthpiece. Like those things to me are always what deepen the stakes and the impact of the action beats. Like the action beats can be cool, but they aren't necessarily going to be powerful or impactful if you don't care about the people who are in them. So these little moments to me are what make the bigger moments that much more special. So I loved this chapter. I am ready for some shit to pop off for sure, but I'm having a good time with these quieter chapters too. All right, I don't have any Stephen King universe connections this time. I know we're going to have a lot of them in the next section, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that both in text and subtext next time. But I do have a little bit of news. Now, this isn't directly Stephen or Dark Tower, but I'm going to cheat just because I think it's really interesting, and It's Dark Tower adjacent because this creature very much lives in the lore and the mythology of the Dark Tower, which is there is a prequel to the It movies on its way to HBO Max. So, all right, here's the news story. So this comes from Variety. It says, the series is currently called Welcome to Derry and will begin in the 1960s in the time leading up to the events of It Part 1, the 2017 film based on the Stephen King horror novel. This story also is said to include the origin story of Pennywise the Clown. Andy Muschietti, who directed It Part 1 and 2019's It Part 2, which sucked, is attached to executive produce and series.
I have to rake in here. I'm sorry. I agree. Chapter 2 sucked, but it gave me that year possibly one of my favorite character moments.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm horrible with names. Okay, hold on, I gotta look it up. It Chapter 2. Bill Hader. So there's two moments with Bill Hader in that movie that break me. It is the dead face when he is just like giving it shit and like he gets caught in the I forget what they're called, the like dead beams or whatever, the dead lights.
Oh, the dead lights. Yeah.
And he just like gets caught halfway through. Like I just watch the transition, just watch that scene and just watch him get caught in the dead lights. It is like it is amazing. And him crying over, I mean, oh,
Stan. I know.
Made me cry. He is the best actor in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And I think he does a fantastic job. But Chapter 2 sucks.
I mean, that's the problem with it is the first half of that book is incredible and the second half is just not as strong.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
And the movie reflects that.
Yeah.
But I do love Bill Hader. Like Bill Hader can do anything, be in anything. Barry is incredible if you have not watched that.
Barry is my favorite. I cannot.
I was going to say, I can tell by the noise that you make that you have watched Barry because that is the noise of a Barry fan.
It is his acting in It Chapter 2 that made me, as soon as I saw a trailer for Barry, basically go, I will watch it.
Okay, so according to sources, the Muschiettis and Fuchs developed the story along with the show, with Fuchs writing the script. Andy would also direct the first episode. Should the project go to series, a writer's room is now open at Warner Brothers Television, which is the studio behind the project, having produced both of the two films. So essentially, we're getting a prequel. What's your baseline? What are your thoughts about that?
It could be very interesting. It depends on what they decide to tackle. Like if we're going to get like the Black Spot fire.
My next question was, did you read the book? Because there's a lot of stuff that got left out of the movie.
I read. It was like the first King book I read.
That's a wild place to start.
Yeah, it was rough. Not in a bad way. Just like
well,
then
that one scene.
But like, so I'm curious if it's going to do like, because obviously it's got a hit on some of those, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sad that they excised so much of that plot line in particular. So,
like, I'm curious if we're gonna get, like, I forget, it's like Castor or something like that. The explosion. I'm interested to see what events we get because I do think that it'll revolve around those, but we're also gonna get the origin story of him, which is kind of weird to me because I don't think we need
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I say that every time a Batman movie comes out too.
And then you're like, and ticket sold.
Yeah. Man. But I don't know. It's part of the fun of Pennywise is the mystery.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have... I'm not a huge fan of like having this character for so long and then they try to like humanize him.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in an origin story, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna humanize whoever it is, be that becomes Pennywise.
Mm-hmm.
Did they say like, is Skarsgård attached to this?
It does not say yet, but I mean, because they're still in the writing process, maybe they haven't finalized it, but
I mean,
I would imagine they would need to bring him back.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of two minds. Like, on one hand, I'm kind of like, oh, the mystery is fine. There's some backstory that already exists. There's parts of the book that they did not adapt that I wouldn't mind seeing set to screen. But the fact that it's going to HBO Max gives me some hope that they might actually be able to make something really terrifying.
That is a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of I have an open mind, but a skeptical, like a slightly skeptical mind about it. I will definitely watch it if it comes out.
Oh yeah.
And it'll like kind of scratch my... I was really sad when Castle Rock got canceled, so maybe it'll fill that hole a little bit. We'll see. So that's what I have for news. So that is it for our reviews and our news. So if you are playing along and you are reading along, the next episode we are going to be covering Part 2, Telling Tales, Chapter 1, Sections 8 through 14. So read those, come back. We will discuss those on the next episode. All right. So we don't have any listener mail this time, but if you want to get in touch with us, there are lots of ways that you can do that. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at castofka@zombiegrrlz.com. You can chat with us over on the Castofka Facebook group, or you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at ZG Podcasts Plural. Slide into the DMs there, I guess. And if you're loving the show, please do us a solid and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you're getting your pods, including Spotify, where you can leave us a rating. And if you're looking for something spooky to watch tonight, because like me, you love horror movies, check out our video on demand and streaming calendar at the Zombie Grrlz website. That's grrlz.com. And if you're looking for some cool new merch, well, we got that too. Check out our merch at zombiegrrlz.com/merch. And if you love us and you want to support us, it would mean the world to us if you joined our Patreon, where you get all kinds of cool perks, including an extended episode. We were going to talk about Justin's theories, but I feel like we have touched on those. That's okay. I have some backup things that we'll be touching on. Okay. So don't worry about that. You also can get our bonus episodes, where our exclusive patrons only bonus episodes that are occasionally on video, so you can see us laughing, and you may even see a dance number or two. I'm just saying. Yep. I'm just saying. So definitely join the Patreon. I guess that's it. So Justin, if they need more of you in their life, because who wouldn't, where else can they find you on the internet?
Like we mentioned at the top of the show, you can find me and listen to me every week over on the Here's Johnny podcast. Again, just running through some horror movies and horror games with my buddy Larry there.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at, oh my God, I always forget this, _Justin Wood, because, had to be professional and everything.
You'll always be Pickle Thing to me, Justin.
Oh, thank you. I so badly want to go back to Pickle Thing, but now that I've made the switch, I can't really like flip flop back and forth. I could, but it's hard. I feel bad. For everybody that had to commit to learning the new one, I don't want to go back. Anyways, you can also read some of my articles over at dreadxp.com.
You should. They're awesome.
They are. And speaking on that, my most recent one, as of recording, I don't know when this is coming out. Sorry.
It'll be out next week.
Oh, okay. I believe the most recent one is a kind of short Q&A interviewee thing with Shin Megami Tensei, Shinji Mikami, and basically Papa Resident Evil, and Kenji Kimura, who did like the
Papa Resident
well,
Evil.
That's how I describe him to people. That's my people, the people I know who don't play video games. I'm like, oh yeah, he's like basically the Resident Evil guy. But yeah, I talked to him and Kenji Kimura about their new game, Ghostwire Tokyo, that just came out. And
great interview. Check it out.
Thank you. Yeah,
hopefully it's really good.
Hopefully there's more exciting stuff coming in the future. I mean, I know there is obviously, but I can't talk about it. So, there's that.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you want more of me, there's lots of ways you can find me. I'm on the Zombie Grrlz horror podcast where we review horror films from a feminist perspective. You can find me on Stream Queens where we review horror films that you can stream on the internet. You can find me on More Deadly where we review horror films that are directed exclusively by women-identified directors. Our episode on Master is going to drop this week, as well as... Nope, that's it for that. And you can find me on the Untitled Nick Cage Show where we review the entire catalog of national treasure, pun intended, Nick Cage. We just dropped an episode on Cotton Club. It's a fun episode to listen to. I'll just leave it at that. And then you can also find me on the most recent episode of Bloody Good Horror, where we reviewed the film The Scary of 61st, a very divisive film and a very spicy conversation. So check that out. What was my most recent? It's been a few weeks since I've been on Here's Johnny, but we have
Scream
something coming up. Yep, we just finished our Scream mini season. Thank God.
Yep.
And we have potentially something really fun coming up soon. And if you want more of Justin, the other place you can find him is on the Stream Queens, because we are currently going through the entire series Hellraiser,
which is also going to be very punishing very quickly.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, someone just do the box. I need this to end. Someone do the puzzle box. Yep. So those are all the many places you can find me. And then obviously follow us on Twitter at ZG Podcast. You can follow me personally at Reachy Pants. I wouldn't be mad if you gave me a follow and made me feel special. All right. So on that note, unless you are sticking around for the extended episode, that is it for us today, folks. I'm going to turn it over to our amazing guest with a totally conspiratorial turn of mind, which I adore and resonates with me. I think we are tipping in rapidly into folie à deux, but that's okay. Justin, take us out.
May you find your tower and breach it, and may you climb to the top.
Ooh, I like it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for listening, and to my co-host DJ for making me laugh and for indulging all of my tinfoil hat conspiracies. Production on this episode was done by yours truly. Our theme song for the show was created by DJ. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the extended episode. Okay, so let's see. What are we doing? My original plan was to kick things off with all of your theories, but I feel like
we got into all of them.
We got them.
Yeah.
So instead, I have another news story. This is one I saw like a headline for, and I was like, I feel like this needs to be discussed by Justin. I want to get your take on it. So the headline, this comes from NME. I'm sure that's how you pronounce it. Sierra made Phasmagoria after being turned down by Stephen King. Sierra Entertainment apparently made the iconic point-and-click adventure Phasmagoria after being turned down by Stephen King. In a new interview, founders Roberta and Ken Williams revealed that their Sierra Entertainment studio wanted to make a horror game, so they approached Stephen King many, many times to collaborate on the project. He didn't know who we were or what we were, said Roberta, explaining why King turned down their offer. So I just went ahead and made my own horror game, Phasmagoria, which actually went really well. So it was released in 1995 and sold over 300,000 units in its first week and went on to become the 9th best-selling video game of the year with over 1 million copies sold. Thoughts?
So I was actually thinking about this today.
You were?
Yes. Specifically, and who I think would potentially make a good Dark Tower video game.
Really?
Yes. See, maybe we are content.
I think we're sharing Kef. It's happening.
So it is interesting. I don't think a point and click would have been a good fit for the Dark Tower.
Right.
While I think choice is an interesting concept to put into a Dark Tower game.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll kind of get into what I think a Dark Tower game could look like. I don't think like the FMV as sorry, I want to keep wanting to say phasmophobia every time I say
phas. I know, just because it's on our brains like all times.
The phasmagoria. Oh my god, now I don't even know if that's right anymore. Oh my god.
No, I think that's right, because now you're making me question. I'm looking at
my brain is melting.
Phantasmagoria.
Phantasmagoria, thank you. I mean, I do like Phantasmagoria, and I like FMV games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Dark Tower would have been a good fit. It almost would have been like they made like I think I don't know if it actually ever came in, but they made an Evil Dead game. Oh yeah, they did. It was like a what is that? Oh, I'm trying to think. I feel like they made an FMV game off of a movie. I don't remember what it is, but I don't think that a point and click FMV style is a good fit,
right,
for Dark Tower.
So that brings up an interesting point. You're a game designer,
okay.
You own the IP, and all of the game companies out there want to make it. What is the pitch that you would want to hear? Who would make it? What type of game would it be? Like, design the game for me.
So now here's the question. A question for you. Okay. Am I designing a specific book to be put into a game, or am I designing?
You tell me. What's the best way to do this?
So I think for the entire series to be put into a game,
I
mean, you could have like an action adventure game done by like your Square Enixes or your and like, well, no, Bethesda wouldn't really work because I don't think a first person could be interesting, but
a Fallout situation.
Well, but I think if you were going to make a game, a good like jaw-dropping moment would be going from controlling Roland to being able to then control Roland and Eddie, and then Roland and kind of build a, because you're making a Kotat, right? So
right,
almost like I didn't like the Avengers game, but almost like that. But,
well, I know like in Fallout you get to add companions. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it could be companions. It could, because I don't think like a co-op game would work, but it could be.
Although that would be amazing. If it was an open world co-op game and you like each pick a member of the Kotat,
yes,
including Oi.
Oh, just sold it. but I think, I mean, a lot of people don't like them, but I could see, because of the setting, I could see Naughty Dog doing like a good job with it.
See, that's me. That's my instinct, is directly to Naughty Dog, because their strength is their narratives and their performances, and like imagine the like emotional weight that they were able to bring out of like kind of a rote zombie story with the Last of Us, but putting in these characters.
Yeah,
which is kind of like a mix of an open world, but also just sort of like I don't even know what you call it, like linear. So,
well, that's why I just said like a